It is a huge honor for me to be giving this drasha this morning, and huge thank you to the clergy here at BJ. For years, you've been my clergy. And when I first came to CBSC in 1992, there were 2 rabbis, count them, 2 rabbis in Manhattan who welcomed me. 2. One was Rabbi Marshall Meyer, who called me and invited me to this sanctuary. And I have a very strong memory. I was a pariah in the Jewish community when I came in 1992, but Rabbi Marshall Meyer invited me. I remember I sat over here. I had never been to BJ before. It was in the fall of 1992. He brought me to the bima. He introduced me to the kahal. He offered me a blessing, and he gave me an aliyah. In these simple and profound acts of welcome, I knew I had a partner here at B'nai Jeshurun. And so when I stepped down from my role at CBST, Randy and I knew that we wanted to officially be members here, that this is the community. In many ways, it's been the community for years that I've dipped deeply into. And I'm so grateful to the clergy team here, to you, Rabbi Weintraub, to Rabbi Saul, to Roli, who is away this week, and to the beautiful, beautiful music that Chazan Ari brings to all of us all the time. And looking around the room, of course, and knowing online today, I look and I see Martha Ecclesberg and Judith Plaskow, dear friends since the early 1980s, and both were, how shall we say, important in my decision to even go to rabbinical school. And I see somebody else sitting in this room whose permission I didn't ask, so I won't say, but he and I were young rabbis at a time where one could not be out and gay, who was fired for being gay, who brought me to his synagogue's annual dinner where I was his beard. So I didn't get permission to identify him, but maybe some of you know who I'm talking about right now. The world is here tonight. So I'm grateful to be here. And this is not a time where it's a simple time to talk about pride or an easy time to just relax and look back on how far we've come and celebrate all the successes. Of course, in today's New York Times, there is an article that I brought this morning, Navy vessel to lose Harvey Milk's name in favor of Medal of Honor recipient. First of all, let's talk about the headline. To lose? No. The Secretary of Defense is taking Harvey Milk, a gay Jewish hero, his name off of this vessel. He was a member of the Navy, by the way, and he was a veteran himself, in order to remove the DEI infiltration into the federal government. Harvey Milk, a great gay Jew who, by the way, is in many ways responsible for the fact that I'm wearing a rainbow talit today, and that we associate the rainbow with LGBT liberation. In 1978, Harvey Milk in San Francisco turned to his close and dear friend Gilbert Baker, who was a vexillographer, it's a good word, lover and maker of flags, and said to Gilbert Baker, "We need a symbol for our movement that is not the pink triangle Nazi symbol that was a mark for gay men to wear who were from Austria and Germany as they were taken into concentration camps." And he said, we can't be a movement that uses a Nazi symbol. And Harvey Milk turned to his friend Gilbert Baker and said, come up with a better symbol than that. And it was Gilbert Baker, Harvey's friend, who came up with the idea of a rainbow flag. 8 colors, not the 6 that have become so popular. 8 colors with each one representing the values of our movement. Not just the diversity of human beings, but to be a value-driven movement that would bring things that those colors represented, like healing, an appreciation of nature, a positive sexuality, a love of joy and of arts and of magic. So this morning, I wanted to make sure to bring Harvey Milk present among us as he is being erased in ways that this current federal government would like his image, his name to be gone. So, of course, We stand here in this Parsha of Korah, which, when I was younger, I read it a certain way. Now I read it a little differently. Korah, when I was younger and an activist in my 20s, I imagined this was the story of standing up to power, speaking truth to power. I was on the side of Korah. But it turns out that the Mefarshim, our commentators, have some wisdom about Korah that I think has some truth to teach us today. And they look very carefully at not only his timing, but the fact that he manipulated what were some absolutely correct analyses. He took some pieces in which truth existed. He said to the people, we are all holy. Can't we all be in leadership? But he manipulated it in a way to be destructive to the society in which he lives. And we are living through something, I believe, very similar to that. An authoritarian who says some things that have truth in them and speak to people about some realities in their life, but manipulate that truth and those people to ultimately focus on what will be, and we're experiencing the destruction of our society. Now, I believe deeply in looking back at our history, but not to settle in a very triumphalist, self-congratulatory way. I am a 1970s lesbian, which is a very particular type of human being. And the thing I want to bring out on this Pride Shabbat is not only the victories we have had in these years, but to remember the horrors we face today, we have lived through before, not only in this culture, but around the world. We remember a time in which not only did gay people not have any rights, but it was illegal to engage in any kind of gay act. We remember the Lawrence decision in which police officers went into a gay household, a gay man's household in Georgia, and found, for another reason entirely, found two men having sex inside their own apartment, and they were arrested. And that decision became the Lawrence decision, which codified the illegal nature of being gay. So we've been here before, and the list can go on and on and on. It was possible to be fired for being gay, to lose a mortgage or a lease or a job or custody of your children. So my question is to remember how we responded then, but also how people throughout history and our people have responded in times of terrible oppression. And this isn't theoretical, of course. It has to help us. It has to inform us. It has to inspire us to not give up or to give in. Because those of us who were around in those periods here in the United States, we remember a lot of fun. It wasn't all miserable, even though we had no rights. We could lose our children, we could lose our jobs, and it was a terribly scary place to be. Where there was joy, and there was community, and there was learning, and there was culture, and we have to remember the ability for oppressed people to create great culture. So, what's happening today in the world? Some years ago, only a few, about 7 or 8 years ago, I led a trip from the synagogue to Vienna and to Prague, and to Vienna and to Budapest. And when we were in Budapest, we happened to be there the day of the Gay Pride March in Budapest. And we thought this was in Viktor Orban's early years, and the fascists in Hungary, who are the same party that deported our Jewish community in May of 1944, were given unleashed by the government, by Viktor Orban. And at that time, there was a little distance between Viktor Orban and the fascists, but they were there present for the Gay Pride March, so much so that we had to walk down the avenue with no spectators nearby because the police were worried how the fascists would attack us. Fast forward to today. In March, just a few months ago, Viktor Orban has adopted the fascist philosophy, and as of March of 2025, in Hungary, it is illegal to engage in any public displays of gay pride. Illegal, as of March. And as of March, it was declared that anything that would be, and I want the language exact, all material is banned in Hungary that could be perceived as propagating homosexuality. That means books, it means articles, it means events. Now, one could imagine the fear and the terror of the people, but what has happened in Hungary is that since that law was passed by the parliament and signed into law by Viktor Orban, almost every day there have been protests on the street. And it has not just been the gay community in Hungary. And Hungary is as close to fascism that an EU government could be and still stay in the EU, which is a phenomenon that we don't have here. There are some limits on what Hungary could do because of the EU. But what happened is that civil society, straight people, all the different organizations, all the different government elected officials, and while we sit here in BJ in New York City, a gay pride march is happening in Budapest right now. I'm actually eager to find out how it went and how it happened. But was it only gay people? Not at all. In fact, it was probably mostly not gay people who are in the street insisting the fear will not stop them. They don't have a permit. They don't have permission. But there are so many people in the street that Viktor Orban could not, as of yesterday at least, send out the police to stop it. We'll see what happens there. So I don't believe in allies. I believe we're all in this together. I don't believe it's different if you're one or the other. I believe those differences are important to learn from each other. But there are certain things we know as gay people that are deep in our bones that we can feel happening now, that can give us some wisdom for this moment. And just like we understand that Korah's use of some pieces of truth can be used in this incredibly destructive way, like what's happening with book bannings, we know that it won't stop with us, and it won't stop with the first set of laws or discriminations. We happen to know that as Jews also, but as Jews, we've been much more comfortable in this country for a longer time. And I think as Jews, what we've seen these last couple of years can be very shocking to us. Last night, Felicia gave a beautiful talk about this moment, listing all the different horrors that are happening, and they're profound. There's a playbook at hand, which we understand on this Pride Shabbat is not a new one. Would-be authoritarians typically attack women, immigrants, and LGBT people. This is nothing new. Ruth Ben-Ghiat, in her book Strongmen, goes through every single one of these strongmen of the 20th century and now emerging in the 21st to watch this pattern happen. And we see absolutely it happening here in this country right now. So, where do I get hope? How do I understand what gay pride can provide for all of us, gay and straight, in between, questioning, not knowing, queer? It's in this understanding. Where is the rainbow in The Wizard of Oz? When Frank Baum wrote his book, The Wizard of Oz, and his series, there's no rainbow. Dorothy doesn't see a rainbow in The Wizard of Oz. But when the movie was done for 1939, Yip Harburg put the rainbow into The Wizard of Oz. This Jewish boy, this immigrant from Eastern Europe growing up on the Lower East Side, he understood the Jewish concept of being able to see color even if you're in the middle of black and white. And of course, the movie itself starts out in Kansas in black and white, and it shifts to color when we go into Emerald City in the land of Oz. And it was Yip Harburg's Jewish immigrant understanding of the world that we cannot accept empirically what is the only reality, but we Jews have brought to the world an understanding of the vision of the promised land, even though the desert is hot and the sun is beating down on us and there's not a lot to eat, we are the ones who have been able to imagine the possibilities even when the truth, like the Meraglim last week and like Korah this week, would denigrate us into complete despair. And gay people have that same gene. When things have been really miserable, we as an LGBT community are able to see color. We are able to create culture. We are able to enjoy beauty and not only the desert that surrounds us. So Yip Harburg famously put those words into Judy Garland's mouth. Somewhere over the rainbow, while she's in the pigsty, remember, in the farm. How does she have the ability, this young girl, to imagine what's possible? She's giving us that vision, which is in our tradition also, that it is our job to have an imagination. It is our work in the world. It is our God-given talent to resist those like the 10 Meraglim of last week or the Korachs of this week that tell us what the reality looks like based on empirical truth, and our ability to imagine and then to communicate it in a way with joy. No one can do everything, but everyone can do something. Joy itself is an act of spiritual and political resistance. Silence equals death. Those three things are the things that I have learned in my years, from the moments in which coming into this sanctuary with Marshall Meyer's blessing, and nobody else in the Jewish community was doing that. When CBST was founded in 1973, not a single rabbi, not a single Jewish institution, not a single synagogue, not a single organization in the Jewish world said it was okay to be gay. Not a single one. I'm not talking about a minority. But somehow, gay people were able to find a way to say, I reject that message. I'm going to create an alternative one. And that alternative one understands what God's mission and vision is for us. So remember, we have been through difficult times, and it's our job to reach back and learn from the shoulders on whom we stand. Our immigrant ancestors in this country, and those of us who are immigrants themselves, came here for us. And for me, the Pirkei Avot says it best. As a gay mantra, Bimkom she'eno anashim, in a place where there is no humanity, Dafka, that moment, that is exactly the time. That is precisely what God wants of us. We must strive to be human. We cannot descend into, well, everybody else is like that. Nobody else cares if people are being ripped off the streets. Nobody else cares if Harvey Milk's name is being taken off the ships. Nobody else cares. It doesn't matter. It has to start with us. And it starts with us by insisting on silence equals death. And that's exactly why, and thank you for mentioning it, we began the beacon, which was exactly like Tag Meir does in Israel. When it is darkest, that is the time we have to know each of us has a light inside. When the darkness feels like it's crushing us, we have to remember God has lit the light inside of us so that we light the light for others. It is on each of us, Bimkom she'eno anashim, in a place where there is no humanity. It is precisely that moment. We reach deep inside. We don't accept that narrative. And on a ritual level, that's what we started every Thursday night for 30 minutes. Can you imagine committing to that? Going outside with a sign that says, what is your vision of the world as you want it? A study came out this week that says, when people see other people holding a sign that interrupts the narrative of what the dominant culture is now telling us, they feel strengthened. We have an impact, and we have to start very small. So, we remember we're not in this alone. And I want to end today with reading something that I offered to BJ, by another BJ member, Rabbi Ayelet Cohen. Ayelet Cohen came to CBST as a 25-year-old intern some years ago. And this is exactly what I mean, that I'm not into separatism. I have learned so much from her, and our partnership, gay and straight, has the power to change the world that I can't do alone, and she can't do alone. None of us can do alone. And she came to me at one point and she said, if we really treat gay pride as a chag, then we have to do something religiously oriented about it. It's not a chag like we don't drive and we say Kiddush, but it is a chag like Purim or Hanukkah, in which we recite Hallel, in which we say Al Hanisim, to acknowledge that there are great miracles that have happened, but the miracles that are happened that we say for the holidays of Purim and for Hanukkah and for Yom HaAtzmaut as a contemporary version, human beings express that agency of God through our hands to remind us we are God's hands on earth. And so I end today with this prayer, this Al Hanisim that Rabbi Ayelet Cohen wrote when she was 26 years old and said to me, what you're missing is understanding we need a religious expression, not just political, not just activist, not just intellectual, but God is present with us in our journey. We thank you. We have it in Hebrew and English, and I brought some copies for folks if you'd like to see it, and I thank Rabbi Ayelet Cohen so much for this deep, deep, deep expression of our liturgy in this modern time. We thank you for the miraculous deliverance. Al Hanisim v'al hapurkan v'al hagvurot v'al hachuot v'al hamilchamot she'asita lavotenu uleimotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. We thank you for the miraculous deliverance, for the heroism, for the triumphs in the battle of our ancestors in other days and in our time. In the wake of the civil rights movements, lesbians, gay men, and bisexuals and transgender people began to organize for the dignity and justice that all of us are due as human beings on this earth. Those who profane your name, claiming that they hate us in the name of God, rise up to criminalize us, pathologize us, brutalize us, and erase us. And you, in your great mercy, stand with us in the time of our troubles. You fight alongside us, vindicate us, give us the courage to stand together, to open our eyes and the eyes of the world around us to see that the freedom and the right to love belongs to all of your creations. You give us the strength to witness and create wonders, to be who we are and to love whom we love, not only in the safety of our homes, but outside in the light of the world, to live as Jews in the embrace of community, to sanctify our unions and celebrate ourselves before each other and before you. Even ma'asu habonim hayta l'rosh pinah. The stone that the builders has rejected has become the cornerstone. May we never know shame again. V'lo nevosh v'lo nekalem li'olam va'ed. Amen. Shabbat shalom.